What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first Thrawn Thursday that we have here from Clan Fett. It's me, the Boba Fett, and today what I wanted to talk about for the first question going into this segment was going to be: is Thrawn going to be the main villain of the New Republic era? And I think I wanted to break that apart into two questions or two answers, more or less, because when we think about Thrawn in the Ahsoka series, and well, moving into this New Republic era, we kind of have it branched into what I believe is like a yes and no question. So when I'm saying is Thrawn the main villain of the New Republic era, I have it branched to where it's the Ahsoka series and then the Mandoverse. And so for the Ahsoka series, the thought process is that we've introduced Thrawn with season one. There's all this exposition built up. We know kind of what his plan for season two is going to be, at least in the aspect of declaring war on the New Republic or the rebellion, since he's still catching up with the times. Um, but for Ahsoka, they've been hinting at this underlying power that Balin is out searching for. With the new trailer that has just come out, we get Anakin talking to Ahsoka, referencing, Balin is looking for this new power. So I think in regards of this Ahsoka series, he's not really going to be the main focus to where they may have this Mortis arc going on. There's going to be different things happening to where, Thrawn is going to be in the main galaxy, wreaking havoc on the New Republic and doing what he's got to do there. But there's also going to be that aspect of trying to stop whatever is on Peridia from, escaping or using Shin and Balin to release itself, whether it's the brother, whether it's Abeloth. There's kind of some mixed theories going around with that. But I don't think, in the terms of the Ahsoka series, that Thrawn is the main villain. Like, he's definitely up there, but I think there's this underlying factor that they're going to try to resolve, and whether that means Ahsoka is staying in Peridia, whether it's something with her going into the world between worlds to take her spot with Morai as the daughter, as the embodiment of the light side, as we saw when the daughter literally saved Ahsoka's life and transferred her essence into her Ahsoka's. There's that fight that will be happening on both fronts, more or less. And then I move over to the Mandoverse, where I think they are setting up Thrawn, and I really hope he's going to be lasting for a little bit. Like, I hope this isn't just a one-off. That Thrawn will be the main big bad, more or less, for this coming Mandoverse series. When we have, my buddy Brandon says, the Marvelification of um, Star Wars, where we have all these main powerhouses, whether Ahsoka is still going to be there, Boba Fett, the Mandalorian, Bo-Katan, if Luke's going to still be around, we have all these people that are going to have to come together to defeat Thrawn, more or less. And I think that's where it's going to be, he is going to be the main villain in that aspect. He's going to come back, declare war on the New Republic, more or less, in my hopes and my thoughts. He's going to go around on a campaign just mashing them, and then they're going to get to the point where it's like almost like Infinity War. It's like, this is the end game, more or less. It's like we all have to group together, we have to get everyone together, and then we can go fight Thrawn. And maybe that comes back to if they want to pull from the Legends to where we have like this final fight, and then we have Rook or some other character that takes a place like in the book to get rid of Thrawn or to axe him finally, or whether maybe it's Enoch of that character who takes that place. But there's a couple different theories on that aspect again. But I do think so. In terms of the question, is he the main villain of the New Republic era? No, for the Ahsoka series, because I would like to see if they're going to play on this Abeloth, but I have a feeling they're going to quench that in the Ahsoka series, compared to the Mandoverse and the overlying factor that yes, he is the New Republic's main villain. So I guess it's a yes, because Ahsoka has its own thing going on, but I don't think that's going to get back to the main galaxy. If it does, I'm totally wrong, and I'm okay to own that. But I do think it's going to be Thrawn returning to where they don't even know what's going on in Peridia, but we do have Thrawn here, and he's going to be going around just. I really want to get into some colorful language, but Thrawn is going to be mucking the the rebellion and the New Republic, as he would like to call it. And he's going to come back, find out that both Death Stars were destroyed, all these resources were wasted, all the things that could have been done differently, and he's going to come in and be the logistical and strategic mastermind that he is, and I really think he's going to take hold of that. So, end question or and answer overlying is a yes, that he is the main villain. But I did want to break it apart because I do think they're going to deviate between Ahsoka and what happens after setting up, um, you know, just the next couple of years of Star Wars, and the aspect of whether they do bring Abeloth or the brothers, the Mortis arc, and implement that into the main universe. I do think it'll deter. And then, so I think I wanted to go through because I did have some questions that were asked in regards to what we were talking about on the post. And the first one that was coming through from our best friend Grand Admiral Holly. Shout out from Rebel ScumCon. It was great to meet you in killer costume per always. And her question was going to be, can you tell me what Thrawn's end goal by declaring war is? Is it still for his people? And I think the big thing is, Disney has really yet to establish his background, where he comes from. In the books we get all the logic that he's, joining the Empire to use their resources to fight the Grisk, to help his home world, and do all this stuff for the betterment of more or less his home world. And we haven't seen any of that yet. So I think one thing that I am hoping for is that we get pieces of it. Like maybe it's still like, the end goal, because I would like to see it as Thrawn is an enemy that justifies his, is all the means justify the end. So it's like, it doesn't matter what happens because he's doing it for the end goal, and it's usually pretty sound in his own head. Like he reminds me of someone that would be like using a blue lightsaber even though he's a bad guy, because like in his head it's right. Shout out Ninth Jedi. But that's one of those things where I would like to see them implement a little bit of background from where he comes from and why he's doing what he's doing. But we're getting to the point where it's like, I want to say yes, he's still doing it for his people, but at the moment we don't know that. There's been no context or anything going into that from, at least from what we've seen in live action, that would implicate that more or less. So I think in my mind, he's doing it. We're kind of using the Empire as the Chiss people. Like he's doing it for the betterment of the Empire that is his, his empire. He is the heir to this empire, and he's going to come back and do what he thinks is right to run it, rather than how Palpatine ran it. And Palpatine ran it through fear, through like trickery, through all this backstabbing, through all these things, where Thrawn's going to be, very upfront. He's going to be very logistically sound with it. He's going to be very tactical. He's going to be very sound with the movements that he's making, because he gets to know his enemies to better combat them in different manners, like learning their cultures, their backgrounds, all the good stuff that we saw in Rebels. So at this point, I kind of think it's for the Empire. Like we haven't really seen him reference his people. We haven't seen him say, hey, like I'm trying to get back so then I can rebuild the Empire to then go help my homeworld and fight the Grisk, or prepare the galaxy for their invasion. It's like, hey, I'm back. I declare war on the rebellion. So I think they've shifted that end goal to be more in line with that. And I think the second question that we had was also kind of in that same manner, of protecting his people. But let me get to it real quick. And this was from Chiss Ascendancy podcast, and I think it was more or less same thing with, if Thrawn was to win, what is the ultimate goal? Is he doing all this just to bring resources to the Ascendancy? And I think that's where it's like, if we're gonna get more in depth with these, with the Ahsoka series, if what I hope with Thrawn lasting, that comes up, then I hope that's where we start to see him with Pelion and the Remnant start to gather those resources, and whether that's him utilizing it for the Chiss Ascendancy, which would be cool, because then we would finally get that callback, we'd finally get that flash. I kind of think they're going to shift it into more or less the First Order, where it's like, Thrawn is going to build up this massive surplus of resources, military equipment, things like that. And then, they're going to implement the First Order, and the Palpatine is going to need all these resources for all the stuff that he's doing on, Starkiller Base along with Exegol. And so there's going to be that. I could see him coming in and just being like, Thrawn has been wiped from the playing field, and Palpatine just scoops all those resources and then takes them. And then, we get the build up within the First Order and all these Star Destroyers that are just sitting on Exegol that have been retrofitted. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking with that, is where it's, again, I kind of think we've moved past going to the reference of the Chiss ascendancy. I kind of think now we're focusing on Thrawn's empire is his family and his home. And now that it is strict, him in charge and he's calling the shots, he's going to do whatever he sees fit to make sure that the empire, prospers. And that's going to be some gnarly stuff, because as we've seen throughout his history, like had the TIE Defender program gone through, it would have been a game changer. That would have, let the Empire combat X-wings and all their fighters in a more effective manner. Had 1,000 Star Destroyers shown up to Endor instead of the Death Star, like the whole Rebellion fleet would have been wiped out. So there's a bunch of different things that he would have done differently. Destroying his own planets after his death, probably not something that Thrawn would do, but alas, here we are. And then again, real quick, the last question was going to be from my boy Atomic Cotter, and that was going to be Atomic Otter, dude. I totally botched that. I'm curious if there will be dialogue between Ahsoka and Thrawn. I need to hear what Thrawn has to say to Ahsoka about working together and Anakin during the Clone Wars. Will he twist the knife and delve deeper into being the big bad, or is his allegiance still to the Chiss? And I kind of think with this one, like the dialogue with Ahsoka, I don't think there will be any unless they run into each other back in the main galaxy. Because at this point, like Thrawn has left. He's like, I've won. Have fun in this galaxy, like, but I've beaten you more or less. So I don't think Thrawn really has anything to say, more or less. Like, to him, he's done. Like he's completed his goal of getting back to the main galaxy. Now that that's done, he can continue forward with his plans. The person that was trying to stop him is stuck in Peridia, where he just was and couldn't leave. So, he probably has a suspicion that she might be able to use some, that the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker is going to be able to pull something out of her butt and make it work. But at this point, like he's like, no, I've won. There's no point in talking to her. I don't think there would be dialogue, and the dialogue that I would, now that I'm thinking about it, that would occur. I would see like Ahsoka's back and Thrawn's like, how, and like that was what I would see the dialogue is like. It took me this to get back. It took me Morgan Elsbeth doing all this crazy building and resourcing to get me out of here, and you just show up with nothing. Like, how did you get back? So I think that could be the dialogue, and maybe that cuts the season or something like that, and it's leading into more of a cliff. But I think it's kind of up in the air. But if I'm Thrawn, I got nothing to say to Ahsoka. Like, secondly, I don't even want to say anything to Ahsoka because, again, the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, like, I do not want that smoke. So, no, I am doing my thing. I'm saying deuces. I'm leaving the galaxy, and out of sight, out of mind. So, I think with that end, he's got nothing to say. Like, he's just going to stay focused on rebuilding the Empire, getting his resources back, finding out what all the Remnant are up to, finding out what Pelion and them have been doing, finding out how Gideon has been wasting resources and all that good stuff. But that's kind of where I think I'm at with that. But I think at the moment, that's where I'm going to call it, guys, because I went a few minutes longer than I anticipated. I was trying to keep this to about 8-9 minutes, but I started to get rolling and I'm doing it in one take. So we're here. But again, I appreciate you guys. So I'm going to be doing this every Thursday. The next question, I will let you guys know on my Instagram probably throughout the week, but I'll keep it, I'll preface it again so that if there's any questions, I'll go through them again and pop them up on the screen. But if you guys have any other questions, make sure to throw them in the comments. If you guys agree, disagree, let me know. I'm always open to getting flamed. So here we are. But I truly appreciate every single one of you. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And other than that, you guys have a great rest of your day. We will see you next Thursday, and as always, long live the Empire.